Good day, folks. Today on the bench I'm going to tie you up my autumn intruder. This is a fly design. Ed Ward came out with the Intruder Style flies way a number of years ago, and just a vast amount of intruder flies out there nowadays. And here's a nice coloration I'll show you and how I tie this one. It's a nice fall favorite. I like the Intruder Style flies with the I got my leader tip coming through here, my leader, and I put a nice little egg on the back here, snelled on a hook. I can change that on the river if I want to change the size, but I like the way they track. They follow my fly line in, they get a really nice swing on these flies. And so let's go ahead and go over the materials. Need to tie the fly. I'm going to be using some HMH small tubes. These you can cut to length. I usually get 3 per piece on those tubes. And the thread, I'm going to use some orange 6/0 thread. In behind, we'll just start from backwards. I'm going to be running my Gamakatsu size 4s or whatever size you want, your octopus hooks. When you're fishing these tube flies, you can have different size hooks on you and swap them out. Of course, you're going to have your leader material coming through to your fly. Get a few colors of beads to go with you. These nice salmon beads, iridescent coloration. I'm going to use a little bit of this New Age burnt or orange chenille. I'll use some orange piping here, this mylar piping. We'll be using some schlappen. At the rear, I'm going to be using some white schlappen for the egg, over top the egg veiling. And then the front collar, I'm going to be using some orange schlappen, which is very nice. And then over top of that, we'll go in with some burnt orange saddle, some very fine grizzly saddle there in orange, burnt orange. And then for the veiling of that, I'm going to go right over top with some of this Amherst pheasant. This has got a little bronze tinge to the end of the natural color. So we got a few parts, so let's get to it and start on this tube fly. And if you've already fished tube flies, well then you're very familiar with the advantages. And if you haven't, you might want to consider looking into it. It's I use both tubes and regular flies, but you can get tube fly attachments for your regular vices too, guys. They're not hard to get into this game at all. I'll just start my thread off the front here, get a little on the tube, run it to the back, take a little of my chenille. This is a New Age, just any kind of a orange chenille. This is basically going to give me a little flare on my schlappen now. When I put my white schlappen on here, nice big soft hackle. Got that. The webbier the better. Ed Ward has sure created a good series of flies with this Intruder style. There's many different variations of the Intruder. This became one of the most famous Steelhead patterns, I think, around, is this Intruder style for the tubes for sure. And you can tie them on jointed hooks too. You don't have to go tubes. A few different ways of doing that. And I'll come in with some tube, micro pipe. You can wrap that up with other material if you want. Pull out the inside there. We get a little bit of the flare on the outside. That's good. And I'll finish that off right there. Put a little head cement on that in a minute. Tie my thread back on the front here, kind of where I want to be with my, start the front of the fly, trim off the extra of this braid off the pipe. Okay, we'll get some of these materials out of the way. Then I'll want to flare that again, so an easy way of doing that is just put a little ball of your chenille in front. That'll help your hackle flare a little more, and the movement is really the key. This is really nice. This schlappen is such a good material. Doesn't look pretty, not super fancy, but it moves a lot, it breathes. Pretty easy to use compared to using, we can do this, I also do a lot of intruders with Arctic fox or hares and different things like that. So there's many different materials. I'll get my hackle folded in there fairly tight, my schlappen. Get a few good turns over it here, don't be afraid to use some thread. And there, that gives us a really nice bulky, good movement in there. Now I'll just come in with 4 of these hackles. Of course, I just got 3. Get me another one here. That's some of the burnt orange. And what I'll do is I'm going to measure that back. I'm going to come on and tie it on every corner. Tie it on each corner. And that works good there, don't it? Adds a lot. I like the grizzly. And of course you can change your colorations up on this pattern. All kinds of steelhead colors. But orange is such a good color, especially in the fall. Then we'll just come in with some of the Lady Amherst tail here. Get a soft loop on that. I'm going to try to move this around a little bit, disperse that around the collar. Go underneath, we get a little more in underneath. There, it gives us a pretty good, that'll split, and actually you can open that up with your bodkin needle here in a minute. As you kind of get it around the shank there a little bit, you can manipulate it with your bodkin. I'm going to get lots of turns on here now and finish up. And I'm going to be using also cone head on this fly. So I'll get my thread whip finished off here. And I'll just grab some of my head cement. Lots of head cement on there. Don't forget the back where we tied on our mylar piping at the rear, a little inside there. Won't take too long to dry. And then we'll come in with the cone head. I just want to move this needle out past my fly. That way. And then push my cone head on securely. I should be able to see the plastic poking through here in a minute. So there you have your tube. It's all ready to go. So what we need to do then is to rig it up. You can glue that tube on, you can melt it on, whichever way you want to do it. And sometimes some guys use super glue on them. So basically, to rig it up is you just take your fluorocarbon, your leader material through the front. And you guys know this, we've already used tube flies a lot. It's such a nice way to change out flies in a hurry. Just run your leader through there, put a bead on it, right on there like so. Go in here, put a nice little octopus hook on here. If you want to even make it easier, you can go buy yourself one of these nice little snelling tools. They're pretty reasonably priced. You just go in, put your hook in there, come to the top, come back, just snell that through. A little tool like that saves you a lot of time and does a nice job. So you can just snip that off and you're ready to fish. Like I say, it is a really nice fly. It tracks so well. Nice coloration, it's got a little breathability to it. So there you go, that's what I'd call my autumn. Fly there. Thanks to Ed Ward for creating such a great pattern over the years. So there it is. The great fly for you on the steelhead. Fall, don't forget orange. Very, very good color. Thanks for watching today on the bench. We'll catch you again real soon. Hope to see you on the water.